Hi, and welcome to Your Seat at the Table. I'm Tammy Smith, your host, and this is episode 5. In today's table conversation, we're talking about divine dissatisfaction. More often than not, divine dissatisfaction is the catalyst. It causes the change and transformation that leads to people stepping up into leadership and taking their role at the table. And this dissatisfaction shows up as sometimes a milestone birthday or a stagnant job that just got worse. Sometimes it's the realization that things are not going to just work out, that the choices you're making and the habits you've developed are actually what's holding you back. We live in a continuum, a constant ebb and flow between the things that we want and like and the things that we push away or avoid. We want to be happy, and we want the people we love to be happy, and it's easy to think if we had more of the things that we liked that we would find this happiness and satisfaction. And while we need a certain amount of satisfaction for our well-being, it might come as a surprise that unhappiness, frustration, those unwanted emotions are actually beneficial because they often wake us up to our purpose. They show us where we have gone off course. As the mystic and poet Rumi says, hold on to your particular pain. That too can take you to God. Desire and pain can show us what's true. It wakes us up to a need that we have been ignoring. It's a way of getting our attention, telling us, hey, it's time to pay attention to this inner yearning. It's a way of questioning, what are we desiring? In the novel Demian, Hermann Hesse's book about the winding path of maturity, he says, I know what you desire. You should, however, either be capable of renouncing these desires or feel wholly justified in having them. Once you are able to make your request in such a way that you will be quite certain of its fulfillment, then the fulfillment will come. But at present, you alternate between desire and renunciation and are afraid all the time. Sometimes we get in over our head and we want something we can't have, or we want something that we're not fully committed to. In Deep Change by Robert Quinn, he says, when one discovers what is right and begins to pursue it, the necessary people and resources tend to show up. And Thomas Merton writes in No Man is an Island that if we have the courage to let almost everything else go, we will probably be able to retain the one thing necessary for us, whatever it may be. If we're too eager to have everything, we will almost certainly miss even the one thing we need. Happiness consists in finding out precisely what the one thing necessary may be in our lives, and in gladly relinquishing all the rest. For that, then, by a divine paradox, we find everything else is given to us together with the one thing we needed. So this feeling of being pushed and pulled is often a signal that we have competing needs and desires. This contradiction creates dissatisfaction, and it has two faces. The destructive side is a form of inner passivity. It leads to the real toxic behavior of complaining. It's known as malcontent. And the Urban Dictionary says that, malcontent is someone who is not content. No surprise there. But it's someone who has either lost or is very unhappy with their lot. And malcontents tend to bitch and moan a lot about their current situation. This kind of dissatisfaction, inner passivity, and complaining turns people into victims. Nothing is ever good enough. world is cold and insensitive, other people have it better or easier, and these thoughts become beliefs, and these beliefs become stories, and it's actually getting stuck in the story that makes discontent so unsatisfactory. Destructive dissatisfaction is unbearable and at the same time addictive. Dissatisfaction is interwoven into our nature. The myths and ancient teachings all point to this. And in the Bible, Adam and Eve become the parents of rival sons Cain and Abel. And Abel represents the part of us that is confident in our abilities. And Cain represents the opposite. In other words, one part says, yes, I'm able, and the other part says, I can't. Cain was plagued with dissatisfaction. Cain's sacrifice was not accepted, and in this ancient teaching we learn a critical aspect of humility and about our connectedness, and that we have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to repeat our patterns and hold on to the right to be unhappy, the right to be stressed, which is that complaining and passive aspect of the part of the self that thinks it's separate, alone, and isolated. In episode 1, we talked about comparison and the underlying root cause of envy, where we see everything as black or white, where we rush to label everything around us as good or bad. We want a short-term fix and we rush to a solution instead of understanding the underlying cause. Sometimes in this eagerness for results, we sabotage our work. So the remedy is to be able to hold creative tension, to be vulnerable and stay with the process, to attune to the inner voice. The beautiful is that which pulls us forward. It allows for personal expansion and growth. We need things that stretch our soul. In the lines of Katie Lang's song Constant Craving, she says, maybe it's the great magnet that pulls all souls to what is true, or maybe it is life itself that feeds wisdom to its youth. Constant craving has always been. When asked, Katie Lang said the meaning behind constant craving is quite simply divine dissatisfaction. This divine dissatisfaction is the catalyzer, not the story. It's asking us to look behind the curtain of our unhappiness and to ask, what is this trying to tell me? What is the purpose of this dissatisfaction? It is what initiates the journey. It's the call to adventure. The journey brings about a realization that you have a choice. You can look for the stories that you want to be involved in. And why not live the life you're meant to live and waken to the beauty and complexity of our world and our part in this epic narrative? We realize that we must face things as they come, and then we can learn that even through the failure and through pain and through fear, we can learn to thrive. But again, it's through, not under, over, or around. So you stay with it. You trust the process of growth and transcend. To transcend does not mean to disappear. It means to no longer be limited by. To transcend means to grow beyond in an integrated way. Divine dissatisfaction draws us out. It requires that we challenge everything and anything that goes against nature and the greater good. Ultimately, it teaches discernment, and that there is a thirst that can't be quenched and a hunger that cannot be filled without the living water, without the bread of life. But this requires listening within to the particulars of our life, our needs and our desires, and listening to one another and acting on behalf of the greater good. Thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to subscribe and do share this with a friend, because we all have a message, and Your Seat at the Table is here to help you share it. Your Seat at the Table is your go-to channel when you need a boost of confidence, a bit of inspiration, and ancient wisdom to heal your inner dragons. so that you can move forward, take action, speak up, and claim your rightful place and incredible worth. Welcome to the table.